Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to another review. Thank you for tuning in. And what are we talking about today? So, murder, betrayal, a young woman navigating a world stacked against her. The Silence of Bones by June Hur. Sorry, hold on. Silence of Bones by June Hur is more than just a historical mystery. Uh, so it's more than just a historical mystery. It's a gripping tale of survival, justice, resilience in the face of oppression. So set in 1800s Joseon, Korea, this young adult novel takes us deep into a society ruled by strict Confucian traditions, where a young servant girl is thrust into a murder investigation that could cost her life. So let's dive in. So today's book is The Silence of Bones, written by June Hur, and it was published in 2020. And of course, in the years leading up to 2020, YA, young adult, had just become a huge category. And so people might point to things like the Harry Potter franchise. And then also things like The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, or To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, or the Hunger Games trilogy, or Twilight, or all of these kind of things, right? And so YA is a huge category. And by the time 2020 came around, it was this massive category, and it increasingly was including a lot of variation and genre mixing. And that's we've seen this sort of fragmentation continue today. So if you look at YA, there's all sorts of niche categories and so on. And it's a huge area in terms of the fiction publishing industry in general, and of course, it's also become a huge source of online fandom. With lots of these young adult books and franchises have legions of online fans and so on. However, not much. Not much Korean YA has been translated into English, and there are not. Maybe I'm wrong, but there aren't a huge amount of English young adult books set in Korea. There are quite a few Korean American young adult books, and that seems like it's quite a healthy genre, like mini genre within YA. But there isn't a huge amount of Korean young adult stuff. So today's book is something of an outlier. Now, it wasn't written in Korean; it was written in English, but June Hur is a Korean writer. And so anyway, Silence of Bones is set in Korea in the Joseon era. It's set around about 1800, so just at the turn of the century. And it's a historical murder mystery about a 16-year-old girl called Saul, Seol, Saul. And Saul is an orphan and an indentured servant for what is the essentially the police force of the time in Seoul. So she is a servant working for the police force, and the male police members are not allowed to interrogate, female suspects or witnesses, or enter female spaces. And so what they do is they have servants like Saul to assist in these types of cases. So they'll have someone like Saul go and interview, the female suspects or witnesses, or so on, or they'll go into these sort of female designated spaces which the male police officers haven't meant to enter. And the plot is set in motion when the body of a noblewoman is found murdered and mutilated in the street. And this murder is linked to a fugitive Catholic priest that the authorities are trying to locate. And from these elements, June Hur weaves an enjoyably nasty and at times quite a gruesome mystery. An interesting feature of the YA books is that they often have a lot of trigger warnings in case there's any sensitive topics. And this book, it actually has quite a long list of trigger warnings, and So the list of trigger warnings is very amusing in a way, actually. So this is the list: violence, murder, gore, character death, misogyny, mention and description of animal abuse, mention and description of suicide. And so if that list of triggers sounds like it isn't or is your thing, then you'll know how to proceed. That list should probably also specifically mention torture, because there is quite a significant amount of torture in this young adult book. It's interesting if you think about young adult books; they do often feature the main character or main characters experiencing torture. If you think about Harry Potter or Hunger Games or something like that, there always seems to be some kind of torture. Anyway, I suspect that description of trigger warnings will, intrigue as many people, will, incentivize as many people as it puts off. But this isn't, as you'll understand from that list of trigger warnings, this isn't a cozy mystery or a sanitized depiction of life at the time. It's nasty. People suffer. Sometimes the wrong people suffer, and this book gives a sense of danger. The threat of violence is everywhere, and I think Hur constructs a believably dangerous world for Saul to navigate. So who is Saul? So Saul's a great character, very much in the vein of a Hermione or a Katniss. She's determined and capable and independent. But of course, this is not a society or a period in time that appreciates or values independent young women. She is in a somewhat unique position because even though she is a young woman and a servant, she has this unusual responsibility of carrying out police work in situations the male officers can't enter. So, for example, at the beginning of the book, she has to examine the dead body of the noblewoman in what is essentially an early autopsy. And this sets a tone for the rest of the novel. It's a very gruesome way to begin the story. It does a great job for setting the narrative in motion. And a significant part of the novel is Saul struggling for independence when everything is pretty much stacked against her: her gender, her age, her family background, her class. And we see these various types of suppression throughout the novel quite clearly. And one of the pleasures of the book, or at least one for me, was the believable depiction of the rules of the police force, and and how she sort of participates and navigates the rules of this organization. And and Saul, we could also link Saul to this trend in Korean literature for young women struggling against a patriarchal society. A lot of the books that I've reviewed or that have been translated in the past few years have had similar. Have had a variation or some way of approaching that topic or theme. And so, in a way, Her is reflecting the modern world through her depiction of Saul in 1800. And then we have the mystery elements of the story, which are very intriguing too. So, this element of the story that involves the hunt for a Catholic priest, this is based on a real event. So, what was her drawing on for this? So again, this is an enjoyable aspect of the novel. So, she's drawing on the really quite intricate political and cultural events from around this time. So, I'll try to summarize quickly. Again, I'm not an expert on this period of Korean history, but set against the backdrop of the persecution of Catholics in Korea. So at this time, or around about this time, hundreds of Catholics were beheaded, arrested, tortured, and or were sent into exile. And the ruling class was trying to stamp out the foreign influence of what they called the Western religion. So they referred to Catholicism and the Catholics as the Western religion, and they were worried about the influence that this would have in Korea. And the ruling class, or the most influential group, was the Old Doctrine, which was conservative and traditionalist, and they were fighting against the southern faction, many of whom had converted to Catholicism. And a southern noblewoman called Lady Kang smuggled a Catholic priest into Korea in 1795. And so Hur is drawing on these elements, these real historical elements, to sort of weave her fictional story around. Very enjoyable aspect of the novel as well, and just sort of seeing this world and learning its rules through the eyes of this young woman who is, trying to stay alive in quite vicious circumstances. So why does this why does it stand out, and does it break the mold of typical YA novels? So I think it is. It's these days I don't read as many YA novels. I used to have a job where I used to have to read quite a lot of YA novels, but I don't these days. I know that June Hur has written several other Korean historical YA novels, and I did enjoy this, and I would like to read them. But I mean, I just don't have time to read everything like I used to. But this book was fairly enjoyable. It has a deeply atmospheric historical setting, a gripping, high stakes murder mystery, an enjoyable and interesting and believable critique of systemic oppression and misogyny at the time. And it's also a coming of age story about resilience and independence. And if you enjoy historical fiction with strong female leads and mysteries and intense, well researched world building, then this book might well be for you. If you're interested in Korean history and Joseon era politics, then this is also something that you should pick up. This book probably isn't for you if you are a YA reader who usually goes for something more light-hearted or romance-driven. Maybe pass on this one. If you've got you might need a strong stomach for this one. But anyway, have you read The Silence of Bones or any of June Hur's other novels? Do you have a favorite historical mystery novel? And please leave a comment and let me know. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more book reviews, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.